Welcome everyone to my channel True Crime and Trials, and today I will be covering the opening statements for the Jessica and Daniel Groves trial. So the prosecution goes first, and she firstly apologises to the jury for the things they will see, hear and learn during this trial. I mean, it's the death of a baby, so it's not going to be enjoyable. Not that any trial is, but especially when children, it's really hard. So she first goes through the charges that they're both facing and the meaning of complicity, which is basically aiding and abetting. So even if you didn't actually murder baby Dylan, if you were involved in any way, then you aided and you abetted. They are both charged with 11 felony charges, and all counts have to be beyond a reasonable doubt to find them guilty on those charges. as is in most trials. The jury's decision to find anyone guilty has got to be beyond a reasonable doubt. If there's any doubt there whatsoever, then they can't find them guilty. So while Jessica was at the hospital to give birth to Dylan, she refused to answer any questions, and the staff said that she appeared to be under the influence. And the hospital also didn't have any medical records of any prenatal care for Jessica, and she wouldn't tell the hospital staff what she'd taken, even though it was clear to them that she was under the influence of something. Which, if they knew what she'd taken, they could be prepared for any eventuality that may happen to the baby or to her, but she refused. And she said she didn't realise she was pregnant, even though evidence shows that, she's obviously got another child, and she's also a licensed practice nurse, which kind of blew my mind to see a woman sat there on trial for murdering her newborn baby, and she's a nurse and she's a drug user. They did actually manage to obtain urine from Jessica and baby Dylan, and they both tested positive for drugs. That poor baby. Within 12 hours, baby Dylan showed signs that he was going through excuse me, that he was going through drug withdrawal. I can't imagine how that baby was feeling. Children's services were called, and he was kept in the nursery for 5 days while plans were made for him. And before Dylan was discharged from hospital, his umbilical cord was sent for testing, and the test results showed positive for methamphetamine, amphetamine, fentanyl, opiates including morphine, and opiates as in heroin. And my heart just breaks, it really does. So on January the 15th, 2019, Andrea Bowling became Dylan's foster mum. He was progressing really well in the care of Andrea, with exception of obviously the drug withdrawals. And he stayed with Andrea until the 28th of January, when Children's Services decided to give Dylan back to Daniel. So in the month of February, Child Services made multiple attempts to contact Daniel, but they had no joy. They just could not get hold of him. And on 28th of March was the last time Child Services saw Dylan alive. No emergency calls were ever made from the Groves home for Dylan. Throughout April and May, Child Services tried to make contact, as did the police. See, it's such a massive time span. In April and May, they were trying to get a hold of the family, and obviously Dylan died in March, so he was already dead. It's sad, because as much as Child Services are about unification and the child being with the family, you know, sometimes you just have no words. So, 10th of June, law enforcement obtained a search warrant, and 30 minutes later, after they got to the house, 30 minutes later, Jessica comes out, and obviously, there's a 6-hour standoff between the police and Daniel, but eventually he's taken into custody. So, while in custody, Jessica maintained that child services had taken Dylan, which obviously wasn't true, but eventually Daniel admits that Dylan is dead after telling, different stories. And on the 11th of June, Daniel agreed to take detectives to Dylan's body, but when he took them there, that nothing was found. On the 12th of June, Daniel and Jessica were put in a room together, and they began whispering to each other. I presume that the police put them in a room together on purpose to try and get more information. And from what they heard, it led detectives to believe that they had been misled about where Dylan's body was. So Daniel again agrees to take them to his body, and he takes them to a 40-foot well. Obviously, in my last video on the reports, it says it was a 30-foot well, but the attorney says it's a 40-foot well in a spring field. It took them 3 hours to get Dylan's body out of there, and the coroner states that baby Dylan died due to homicidal violence. And I'll give this bit of warning because I'm going to tell you the state of Daniel's body. And the coroner said he had 2 skull fractures, 2 rib fractures, upper arm fractures, lower arm fractures, and lower leg fractures. And some of these fractures showed signs of healing and others did not. Obviously, they were recent fractures and fractures that had been done previously and were in the process of healing. Baby Dylan also tested positive for methamphetamines and amphetamines, so it's upsetting, really upsetting. I mean, that baby had already gone through withdrawals, and then he was put in foster care, got through the withdrawals and was doing really, really well. And obviously he was put back into custody of Daniel. Jessica was there, and God only knows what happened to that poor baby. So obviously Daniel has an attorney and Jessica has an attorney, and the first defence attorney up is for Jessica, and he starts talking about the massive drug problem that's in the city. I mean, obviously, by the sounds of it, they have a massive drug problem there, but it doesn't excuse what Jessica did. He says Jessica was and still is a drug addict, and she alone caused the injuries that led to Dylan's death. Now, that's the first I've heard of it. She sat there crying. Whatever. She murdered Dylan Groves. So she's admitted to killing her own child. And one thing I would like to know, there's actually a 14-year-old there, and I would love to know where that child is and if that child's okay. And he said, trying to justify that she's doing the right thing by admitting to the murder. She should not have killed that baby. I'm sorry, but she shouldn't have. And she's doing the right thing because Daniel had nothing to do with Dylan's death and had no idea of his injuries. I don't believe that at all. Dylan died on the 28th of March and Daniel found him unresponsive. He panicked and was confused. Phone an ambulance. He suggested the well and helped put him in the makeshift coffin. Who of you, if you found your baby dead, would panic and in all this panic and confusion, wrap the baby up, tape him up, put him in milk crates, put weights and everything, and then suggest, oh, we'll put him in a well. No. Daniel's defence, basically just trying to get across that, to prove that Daniel had nothing to do with the murder, nor did he kidnap him. I really don't know how the defence attorney is going to... I don't know. So that's the end of the opening statements. It's going to be a hard trial, but I'm going to stick with it because I really, really want to see baby Dylan get justice. So I'm sorry if this has upset anybody. That poor baby did not deserve any of that. But I'm hopeful that Dylan, I mean, she's obviously admitted to murdering him. Now it's down to the father, and, you know, I think she'll get life without parole, which... So, I will see you with my next video. So until then, bye for now.